When you have a history of greatness, the real challenge starts after the finish line.
I can taste triumph with the heart of a lion.
When victory alone isn't enough, you chase something greater, no matter how difficult the path, on the dirt, in the sand, and beyond. The new 2024 Ridgeline, Passport, and Pilot, part of our most rugged trail sport lineup yet. From Honda.
All right, welcome back. Martin Falls here on Bayou Time, and I'm with the parish president of Lafourche, Archie Chaisson. And, you know, we always joke about it that you hear all the time, and it's always an emergency situation. And, God, I hate to say it, right before you got here, one of my employees came in and said, with all the rain, their apartment's flooding. And I'm going, everybody experiences, just in all walks of life, if it's personal, if it's parish-wide. It's almost like we've had to become accustomed to learning how to deal with Ida, oil spills, a little bit of everything. But first of all, welcome.
Thanks, Martin. You know, we joked about that a lot. I said, you know, all I got left is a volcano or an earthquake on my bingo card, and I get to black out the emergency code, knock on wood. Yeah. But it's good to be here with you.
Yeah, and you've been dealing with it a lot, and we talk about it a lot. You're trying to do, and you are doing, the things that people need for a municipality or a parish to move forward. You're trying to do the things that people want to see, the beautification things, just the things that make the utilities go down. You're dealing with insurance companies. You're dealing with the state. But it does take a lot of your time doing this. We're 3 years after Ida now.
Yep.
How does the parish sit right now?
You know, Mark, we've talked about that a lot in the last couple of days, knowing that tomorrow's the 3-year anniversary. You look parish-wide, I think we're about 75% of the way there, both from a governmental standpoint, but also just a personal standpoint. You know, a lot of people have now worked through their claims with Restore Louisiana or insurance or FEMA. Still a long way to go for those people, right? A lot of people are still living in houses that are partially gutted, or we still have about a little over 200 families that are in temporary housing, whether it's FEMA's program or the state's program. So there's still a long way to go there. If you're one of those 200 families, it's like, you're still involved in the days after the storm. But a lot of people have kind of cleaned up, moved on, fixed the repairs, whether they're doing it out of pocket, paycheck to paycheck, or through their insurance or FEMA proceeds or something like that. But you know, we're now in that realm of about, you know, $80 to $90 million worth of construction work happening right now. If you go from South Lafourche all the way to Thibodaux, there's something happening. Right, there's, you know, the Leeville boat launch that we just cut the ribbon on. That was a post-Ida storm with the help of FEMA and Senator Cassidy getting that project fully funded. We're opening bids Thursday on the Galiana government complex to redo that facility that was partially a Head Start, partially a government complex for not only us, but the assessor, the clerk of court, the registrar of voters to have a presence in that South Lafourche community, so people didn't have to go all the way to Thibodaux. We're in the middle of construction of the new health unit in Galiano that'll not only bring health services back to that community, but we'll also have some clinician space for mental health, which is a huge issue, not only post-storm, but just in today's world. Things that we're using some of the opioid settlement dollars to help deal with drug addiction and some of that stuff. You get towards Central Lafourche, we're building that new rodeo arena in Chaisson, which is, you know, partially a FEMA-funded project, partially a parish-funded project. We've kind of combined some dollars to help build that new complex there. And of course, you get into Thibodaux and you see the new courthouse, the new roof on the courthouse, all the new copper. It looks like a shiny penny up in downtown Thibodaux. The roof going on the courthouse annex, the roof going on the R complex right now in Thibodaux.
And that's not cheap.
It's not cheap, cheap. Yeah. You know, that's why we're in that $80 to $90 million range right now, with all these projects added up. And then you stop at any one of the recreational facilities, you see new metal lights, new LED, new metal light poles, new LED lights going up. So there's a ton of stuff happening right now, whether it's South Lafourche, North Lafourche, Central Lafourche. We're trying to capture everything. And as bad as Hurricane Ida was, it's helping us get to a better point in our parish, right? We're going to get some shiny new stuff out of it that's going to last us another 50 years.
And insurance rates will go down because you have new roofs and different things. So,
that's right.
I mean, but let me ask you, when I went visit with you all the other day and I walked upstairs, there was a lot of damage that was in the process. So you're working in it every day. Mitch's office, they're working in it every day. But I bet you and Mitch have talked a lot, and a lot of y'all talks are, how do we fund things? You got to be innovative, for lack of a better word.
Yeah. So, you know, while we're waiting for the insurance issues to be settled, because we're like everybody else. We had to end up in a litigation standpoint with our insurance company. While we wait for those FEMA dollars to roll in, the parish went out and borrowed $120 million to be able to cash flow this stuff, because we didn't, 3 years out, we're doing these projects, right? And that's very frustrating for the citizens, the council, for the administration to have to wait 3 years to see some of this stuff moving. But you look at as all of the architects and engineers that we all use that are all local to Lafourche and Terrebonne, right? They're doing work for the parishes, whether it be Lafourche or Terrebonne. They're doing work for the diocese. They're doing work for the school districts in Lafourche and Terrebonne. So they're really busy. So it takes a while for everybody to get to a point where we can go out to bid with these projects. So while as frustrating as it is, while it was hard to go borrow that much money and convince the council that we need to go bond out that sort of money, it's paying dividends. And I think as those FEMA dollars roll back in and we're able to pay that stuff off over the next 4, 5, 6 years, it'll help.
Has the bonding policies changed since the hurricane too?
So they haven't really changed. Luckily, when we did it, interest rates were still pretty low. So that kind of helped us out. The one thing that we've been able to find through the help of our partners is that there's a statute in federal law that says if you go borrow money, then that can actually be a FEMA claim. So they help pay us. They're help paying back the interest on some of these at a 90-10 rate. So it lowers the burden on us to have to pay back some of this money.
So y'all have 10% liability even on the interest?
Oh, even on the interest of the bonds.
Hey, a lot of people would take that, right?
That's right. I'm okay with that.
I'd take it on mine for sure. So right before the break, so there's just a lot of things that are fluid, but are you optimistic? And we'll talk about the oil spill after this, but are you getting in a posture where you're optimistic about just seeing a lot of positive starting now?
Yeah, no doubt. I think the hard part for us is still, how do we work with, Tim Temple, our new insurance commissioner, to drive down some of these insurance rates? We all know why we love to live here, right? It's a great place to live. How do we keep it affordable? How do we keep it vitalized has been the key component of what we continue to talk about, especially for South Lafourche. I'm sure it's the same thing if you ask, President Badger here in Terrebonne about Lower Terrebonne, right? It's how do you revitalize the communities? How do you keep economic development going in those communities in the face of high interest rates, high insurance costs, whether it's homeowners, flood, whatever, to make it affordable for people to live there? And that's where we are.
What we'll do when we come back, let's talk about insurance and let's talk about the oil spill, how that's going. We'll talk about some different things. All with the parish president of Lafourche Parish, Mr. Archie Chaisson. We'll be right back. Today's social media segment is brought to you by South Louisiana Bank. It's better when we bank together. Waits and Downer, attorneys at law. Terrebonne Ford, built Ford tough. And welcome back. I am with the parish president of Lafourche Parish, Mr. Archie Chaisson. Always good to have him here, and so transparent with everything. We appreciate that in the news world.
Yeah,
for sure. Dealing with insurance, I, like everyone else, have been looking at the insurance rates, have been shopping the insurance rate. I guess what's good to see, and look, there's going to be a lot of people that say, well, it ain't that good. But at least more people are writing. So it's getting a little more competitive. It's got to come a long way down, but I was just glad to see more people are willing to write insurance. Are y'all feeling that too?
Yeah, I think some of the stuff the legislature did in the first special session with the grant dollars helped drive some companies to come back in. I think some of the issues that we tackled in the regular legislative session with Commissioner Temple and some of the insurance packages that he and Governor Landry did are helping to drive some of that. What really we need is a couple of clear hurricane seasons, right, where the market settles, people get comfortable again, kind of like what we saw after Katrina, right? A lot of people went into Citizens, a lot of people came back out. A little bit of it when Gustav and Ike hit, but not so bad. But I use our example at the parish, right? We had $64 million worth of coverage when Hurricane Ida hit in August. Of course, our policies renewed at the end of October, like everybody's does, the first of the year. And they didn't want that exposure risk anymore. So they came back and they offered us $10 million in coverage. So we said, okay, we'll take it and we'll pay an extra, what amounted to about another $1 million to get another $10 million worth of coverage. So we went from 64 million in coverage down to 20 in the hopes that, if this ever happens again, then we'll be back at FEMA's doorstep going, hey guys, we need some help. But hopefully some of the fortified issues we're doing, we're putting stronger roofs on the buildings. We're using some other grant dollars to help us do that. to help fortify the building so we don't have as much damage the next time, right? If there's a next time. So the hope is that those insurance rates start to drive down for our residents as well, because that's what's going to keep people here or drive people out.
You know, and I don't want people, I've heard discussions before, well, people are moving from Houma to Thibodeau, and that may be the case, but I think people fail to realize sometimes that, and they're moving because they don't want to be in the storm. But at the same point, you're in a parish where Golden Meadow got whacked and went into La Rose, went into Cutoff, it went into Raceland, it went into Thibodeau, it went, I mean, this was just such a monster storm. So a lot of people often think of Houma, you know, being the frontal boundary, but y'all got a lot of frontal boundaries and y'all had a lot of damage too. So sometimes I don't get, now maybe they move into Shack Bay and other areas where they're more north and they're getting better rates, but sometimes I don't see it all, but I guess you get to dissect it.
Yeah, you know, and we've seen a migration north, and the insurance rates get a little bit cheaper as you get to Thibodeau. But I will say that if God wouldn't have intervened and that storm wouldn't have taken that kind of, you know, easterly jog at Highway 90 and hit the river parishes and went up north, Thibodeau would have been in the same boat that Cutoff was. Yeah. Right? We'd have seen the much more extreme damage.
For 8 hours.
For 8 hours, right? Because we never got into that eye wall.
Yeah.
So I think it's relative. And I tell people this, you know, we've had a lot of conversations, especially on the federal level, about a national disaster policy. Because no matter where you go to the Midwest, you get tornadoes. You go to California, you get mudslides and earthquakes. You go to the Northeast, you get blizzards, and they get hurricanes up there too. So you just have to pick your poison, right? The insurance groups are going to be what the insurance groups are. They're going to be hard times, and it hits our pocketbooks, and we have to, you know, grin and bear and hope that it comes back down. And that's just the nature of, you know, what it is.
Are we heading towards, and this might sound pretty crazy, but it might sound like I've turned over a new leaf, socialized insurance, where everybody puts it in the big pot and everybody gets the need, you know, like you said, everybody has a different problem.
Yeah. We've had a lot of discussions with that at the federal level. My only concern with that is that we end up where we are with flood insurance, right? Which is a nationally based program. And we see how that's working out for us here locally too.
Yeah, but let some private people be on the board.
That's right. We'll see where that goes. I don't think we pick it up this Congress. There may be some discussions next year, depending on what happens from a federal election level, but we'll see what happens.
As far as your position, before I ask you that, I want to get to the oil spill. How are we looking on that right now?
Really good. A lot of the boom has come out of the Bayou. DEQ, EPA, LOSCO still continue to do weekly visits to kind of check out some areas. The water plant continues to remain clear, so all of that boom has come out of the plant where we saw it on the kind of the clear well on the intake side, and then out of the Bayou. So I think we have a couple of spots that they're still monitoring. We actually really need really good rain to continue to flush out that culvert to make sure there's nothing left in there, which we don't think there is. But we want one more good rain. So I think by the end of the month, you'll see kind of the all clear stamp from all the agencies, and we'll be back as life is normal. We see people fishing in the Bayou. As Councilman Otan noted last night at the meeting, his son and his grandson went fishing and caught some fish in the Bayou and ate them, and they tasted just fine. So I think we're in a positive place. But if any resident still has anything, that claim line is still open. They can still call that 1-800 number. It's still being manned, and we'll deal with any small issues that pop up. But we're in a really good spot.
But as an elected official or a politician, don't you have to go to the Bayou, catch a fish, bring it in your pan, fry it, eat it yourself?
I think so. I think what I'm going to do is just jump in the Bayou and take a big gulp of water and prove that it's good to go. But we're in a really good spot. The company did really well, reacted very well with the contractors. And I got to say, from a unified command group working with EPA and LOSCO and Crescent itself was kind of one of the smoothest operations we've ever been a part of.
I was going to say, as covering these things over the year, it's one of the smoothest operations I've seen. I'm not saying everything goes perfect in a disaster. You can have little hiccups, but overall, looking at it from outside in, it was very smooth.
It was. It went very well. Cleanup went well. We had 160 people and 20-something vessels in a 7-mile stretch of Bayou Lafourche with over 10,000 feet of boom deployed. The contractor really know what they were doing. Their boots on the ground folks, their supervisors did really well. And again, the company was very forthcoming with whatever we have to do to fix this, we're going to do.
Yeah, and that's what I was most impressed with.
And they continue to do that.
But y'all been through it before, so a calmness when you have the press conferences is pretty good and relaxing people.
That's right.
All right, let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll be right back with the parish president of Lafourche. Don't go away.
social media segment is brought to you by Terrebonne General Health System. Your health is our legacy. Rouse's, you're either local or you're not. Buick, the craft of modern luxury. St. Martin and Bork, know your rights.
All right, welcome back as we're talking with the parish president of Lafourche, Mr. Archie Chaisson. We're talking about a lot of things. We had two segments before, but travel trailers, are you still seeing a lot of travel trailers?
Yeah, so we still have about 200 of them out there. Most of them are the FEMA mobile homes. We still have about 10 or 12 people in the state kind of RV units that we're working to get out. Most of those programs are coming to a close. The state's really pushing to close their program out, get those last 10 families out, and into some sort of permanent housing. The FEMA, I think, will run probably through the end of the year, January, February, and then you'll see kind of a mass exodus from there as well. The people who are left are the people who are in like Restore Louisiana, still dealing with either insurance or FEMA issues that have made progress slowly but surely and still have a little ways to go. So FEMA implemented their rent program some point last year. They're paying a small amount of rent. And I think at the first of the year, that number is supposed to jump up if you really wanted to try to stay in them. But we hopefully have most of those families out by the end of the year.
Okay. You know, part of being parish president, I think you would agree, when you ran and you want to grow the parish, you want the fun stuff. Everybody who runs for office wants the fun stuff. Unfortunately, there's the suck stuff that you got to go through. And look, you have weathered some storms. I mean, you sat up here the first year, we went through 7 or 8
hurricanes,
storms. I'm sitting there going, my God. Then you go through Big Ida, then you go through the oil spill, then you go through different things. But you're still smiling.
Yeah.
How you do it?
Look, Martin, I really say if there wasn't term limits, I'd do this forever if they let me. I really love what I do. We have a really good team. We have 100,000 awesome people that live in Lafourche Parish, most of which I think like me most days, and some of them don't. But we'll get through those people. But you know, it's a bug I got bit with years ago, and I love public service. I love to be able to give back. You know, it's a fun job. It really is. And look, there are some days, I had a meeting yesterday with Cam Ovon, the old district attorney, and he asked me how I was doing. I said, Cam, some days I get up and I beat my head against the wall, and some days I get up and I'm full of fire and I'm ready to go again. And it's a balancing act. It really is.
That's my old coach, you know.
Yeah.
At Vanderbilt.
No kidding.
Cam was a head coach before he went to law school and became a DA.
Yeah.
And he was a hell of a coach.
He was.
Yeah, go ahead.
Now I get why he's so good at what he does. But you know, it's a balancing act. You know, we have great leadership in the state. We have great leadership from a congressional delegation. Whether we're talking about Speaker Johnson, Majority Leader Scalise, Congressman Higgins, who now picks up part of Lafourche. You know, unfortunately, we're losing Garrett and Representative Graves, and we'll see what happens in that election in October, November. And then Congressman Letlow has always been great. And I will say that even though he's a Democrat, he's a great friend of Congressman Troy Carter. You know, during the oil spill, he was one of the first callers. He picked up part of Lafourche as well in the northern part of Thibodeau, in that minority area in the west side of town. So he's been great, a great
asset. Him to be very level-headed.
He is. Yeah. He is. Now, look, we philosophically disagree on some stuff.
No doubt.
You know, from either side of the aisle. But
it's not personal.
It's not personal. He's a great friend. So when you go to talk about things like flood insurance reform, and whether you're talking about Senator Kennedy, who's going to be with you, I think, later today, or Senator Cassidy, who was with us last week, we had a lot of parish presidents in our quarterly meeting and met with them about a lot of different things. It's easier to pick up the phone and do that when you know the people. It's very easy to pick up the phone and call Senator Fazy or Representative Ogeron or Representative Fontenot because we're all friends. Right. And I think that's the one good thing, at least for the Bayou region, that we have going, is that a lot of us are you know, we're all on the same page. We're all interconnected, whether it be through family or friends or our day jobs. So it's very easy to pick up the phone and do that. So it makes what we do from a local level really easy. And I say the same thing about the council. You know, we have 9 great people who philosophically we disagree on some things. Meeting to meeting we disagree on some things. But at the end of the day, we can all walk out the door, shake a hand, and go drink, you know, a glass of water or a beer and eat a dinner together and not have a problem.
I've always said if somebody's committed to a decision because they just really believe that that's the way they ought to go, you can't blame them. It's just when they switch for political reasons, that's when it becomes problematic.
That's right. And I talk to the councilman a lot about that all the time, especially when we have an agenda item that may or may not be controversial from one point or the other. If you disagree with me, then let's have a disagreement. Don't just vote against it because you're worried about, what somebody's going to think or say. And that's something my dad always taught me, right? You got to stand up for something. And if you don't, then you don't. But at least I go to bed every night knowing that we did.
Find a way to say yes. If you can't, say no.
That's right.
Yeah, just a way in a nutshell. Just with a short time left, the percentage that you deal with local issues compared to federal avenues for things, what would it be?
It's probably about 50-50. A vast majority of the stuff we deal with on a day-to-day level is, it's the simple stuff. It's, hey, I need my culvert clean, my garbage got skipped, an animal complaint, believe it or not, are some of the bigger ones. And then a vast majority of our focus is some of the bigger stuff, right? We, joining the lawsuit about the National Flood Insurance Program, fighting with FEMA about whether it's housing or, reimbursements on some of these projects. So it's about half and half. And I do have to say the 326 people that we get to work with every day in the Lafourche Parish government deal with the brunt of that, right? I'm a 30,000 foot view kind of guy. I get in the weeds on a lot of stuff. But we hired them because we trust them and we want them to do their jobs. And whether it's the guys on the guys on the machines digging your ditches, blowing out your culverts, or the ladies in the office who are taking your community application or giving you a permit, they all know what they do and they're all really good at their jobs. And the 7 department heads are exceptional. I get up every day and I get to lead a great team, but it's because of them that we are where we are, right? It's not because I get to do cool stuff like this and sit on TV.
I bet whenever you go out to cut your grass, you're thinking of how many grass calls you'll get. Seems like government gets a lot of grass calls.
We do, especially during the summer. It's always, but we deal with those too, whether it be blighted properties, especially after the storm. It's just a constant deal. And, I spent, 4 hours this morning at a budget meeting with our finance staff trying to wrap up next year's budget to send to the council. So no day is ever the same, and no day is
That's
ever.
When you learn as parish president to say, that's a state highway.
That's right. No doubt.
Archie, good to see you again.
Thanks, Martin. Appreciate it.
All right, the parish president of Lafourche, Archie Chaisson. We appreciate him always coming by and keeping us up to date. It's our sister city out there in Lafourche Parish, all those cities. And we'll be right back. Don't go away. Today's social media segment is brought to you by Alford and Associates for all of your insurance needs. CIS, Cardiovascular Institute of the South, the highest quality cardiovascular care available. Barker Honda, the Barker family tradition of quality.